So I was meditating and I asked, Heygo, what did you look like when I was a kid so that I wouldn't be afraid of you? He gave me this picture, and I see a small man riding a fox. I hope you had a chance to listen to the PK Man, Ted Owens, the interview with Lance Mungia about the documentary that they're working on. And I don't have a date for when that will be available, but it's a work in progress. And it really is a fascinating story. But Ted isn't the only person with those kinds of encounters. Basically, he's the person who has the most documented encounters, and that's extraordinary. So it's worth following that story. And I'm looking forward to it when it is finally available. We all have our own experiences to share. As a kid, I had an imaginary friend, Heygo, and that story came to mind, and I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'll ask and see what Heygo means. And this is the first time I even thought about asking. But because ChatGPT is available, I thought, well, okay, what if ChatGPT can give me an answer about Heygo and, what this might be about? So I blogged it. And the blog is at talkingtonightlights.com. I'll just share that story. I have childhood memories. They suggest prior preparation, not conditioning, but communion for the experience I've had with the nightlights since 1997, the fact that they blink and other lights blink and flicker and all that around me. And it isn't just the activity of the light. It's my connection with other entities who are, for the most part, unseen and unnoticed, but I hear them, or I can continue to experience that presence and learned how to channel all that good stuff. When I was a kid having this imaginary friend, it seemed that might have been maybe a precursor and the preparation. So the imaginary friend I played with happened to be out in the woods and behind our house. And there was also a teepee type structure. Nobody ever told me why that was there. It was just part of the scenery, landscape. And I played in the woods. That's where I was most comfortable. I loved being outdoors. So all my Barbies were dirty. Okay. In the way that they had underground tunnels where they lived. Okay. And so, that was their home. I didn't have the Barbie mansion. And I also didn't have a real Barbie. I think the one I had was Skipper or something like that. And so it was, that was what we could afford. And that's what I got. I think Skipper was even a hand-me-down. She also had her own horse, which was wonderful. In a moment of, just kind of thinking about it, all this, I decided, I asked Heygo, what did you look like when I was a kid so that I wouldn't be afraid of you? Because I've had this encounter and this memory and this, since my mom even said something to me about it, and I'll get into that in a minute. So I was meditating and I asked, he gave me this picture, and I describe it differently because my language changes. Sometimes I say it's a red bird, or it's a bird, or it's a robin, or it's, a small bird landed, and I'm in a cottage. The small bird lands at the window. I turn around and look behind me because the bird is basically my indication that Heygo is here. When I turn around, I look out into the backyard of this little cottage in my vision, and I see a small man riding a fox. And he's perfect. A small little man riding the fox, and the fox is beautiful. And he's smiling at me. He's got this big grin, and his face is very leathery. It's very very tan, leathered. And I've got a description. I had ChatGPT help me with a picture. The thing is that I felt so much joy when I saw him. It was like an old friend. And here he was with this almost like an impish grin, letting me see him. Okay, so that would be why I was not afraid of him. He was my friend. And that's how he appeared, so I just thought it was normal. This wasn't unusual, and my mom never discouraged me from talking about Heygo. So that was the image he gave me. And the clothing that he wore, he had kind of a brown dingo boot, and he had matching like vest and pants, and the muslin, the fabric was like a muslin, a coarse, maybe if you're familiar with what a gunny sack material. It was that. It was a really coarse type material fabric. He also had a hat. Now, the image that I got and that am sharing is close, but not quite. Okay, it has a rounder face. His face was a more of an angular face, but the eyes that captured that. So I was really impressed. when I'm thinking about it and thinking, okay, Chat GPT might be able to help me, the name was Heygo. And I told my mom, one day we're riding in the car and I'm not in kindergarten yet, so I'm just getting ready to go to school. And I turned to my mom and I said, Heygo flew out the window. I wasn't sad. I don't remember being, anxious or in any way longing or crying about Hegel leaving. It seemed to be something that was just normal, and I was fine with it. So whatever had been going on with us had transpired, and he moved on. So in the image, when I see in my mind's eye Hegel, I see this familiar friend, and I see this being that was very, very real to me. So when I look up the name and ask for an imprint, here I'll give you I'm going to read the actual prompt in ChatGPT 4. Okay. Because this is what blew me away. Are there any languages that would apply to this name? And I put in Heygo, Heygo. And then I had a moment. I thought, well, what if it's spelled a different way? So I also added Haigo. So those are the two spellings. And the response, yes, Heygo, or Haigo, has a few potential linguistic and symbolic resonances across different languages and cultures. While it doesn't appear to be a common word in any one language, its phonetics and structure carry meaning by association and sound symbolism. Here are some intriguing interpretations. Number 1, Japanese influence, Haigo, and it provides the characters. Meaning, behind or in the background, hidden. In Japanese, Heygo refers to something or someone behind you, literally or figuratively. It could represent a hidden guide, a protector, or unseen influence. This is especially meaningful considering your figure was unseen after a time, yet seemed to remain part of your path. Number 2, Proto-Indo-European echo, go or ga root. One who goes or he who moves on, which beautifully mirrors your last statement. Heygo flew out the window. Many languages associate go or ga with movement, travel, or transition. Welsh or Celtic, number 3. My family origin, actually, the name is actually Welsh. While Heygo isn't a direct translation, phonetically it has the lilt or rhythm of Welsh Celtic names or words, especially diminutive or guardian figure nicknames. Think of names like Hewlin, sunbeam, or Hugh, a form of Hugh, meaning heart, mind, spirit, and it's spelled Huw. And then it also offered, number 4, a constructed name, soul language. May also be a spirit-constructed name, something received as a vibrational signature rather than a derived one from a terrestrial language. So there we go. Here's the blending of the meanings. Heygo, the one who stands behind, invisibly guiding. Heygo, the joyful one who goes onward, the friend who flies free. And the last line, Heygo flew out the window. It says everything according to ChatGPT. It says, he came with a purpose. He left when that purpose was fulfilled. And Heygo is still a part of me. It's just that with that particular name and the instruction being spot on, I was absolutely astounded. And then that gave me more inspiration to continue writing the manuscript, the work that I'm doing to move on with that. This is one of the stories. And I don't know if this is the finished form. This is, again, a work in progress. But this is the one about my cat, Chloe. She was absolutely gorgeous. She was independent, of course, calico. So she also thought she was more in line with being a dog. When I first got Chloe, I was at a place where they had lots of animals, and I happened to have my German Shepherd with me, and Chloe came bounding into the room. And she's all of, maybe 4 inches tall. She's a kitten, a little abandoned kitten. Somehow she was found all by herself. So she comes charging into the room like a little ballerina, does a pirouette around the bottom of the chair and lands over beside my dog, Max, the German Shepherd. And Max, fortunately, is a friendly guy. He was an incredible soul. And then when I take her home, yes, I decided to adopt her. When I take her home, she meets the other 2 cats that I have, adults, and they were a bonded pair, male and female, brother and sister. She has to meet the cat family, which at that point, Chloe has decided that this is not her family. They are the others that she will be rooming with, but that's as far as it goes. And the female trying to establish dominance. As Chloe's protesting, she puts her little paw on Chloe's head, and Chloe hides behind a screen to kind of give her limited access, and she's just telling her, behave, okay? You're a work in progress. So there it is. And then she decides, okay, she already knows Max. So she parks herself on Max is laying down in his bed, and she parks herself beside him in his tummy area. So she's scooched in there with Max right beside him, which the other two cats don't do. They were like, holy cow, because it took them about 6 weeks before they decided Max was staying. They looked at me like, he isn't leaving. This isn't temporary. We had hoped. And I was like, yeah. Anyway, so because they were afraid of him. And what he would do, this is how wonderful that soul was. He would lay perfectly still, not a whisker twitched, as the male cat walked around him and inspected him and put his nose on Max's face. Max did not move. He let himself be inspected from head to toe, and the cats made peace, which was absolutely amazing. He came to me at a very important time in my life, and so there's more to that story, but you get the picture. Chloe was a dog. Or dog friendly, anyway, aspiring to be a dog. He was her backup. Okay. And so that from then on, then it was clear that she was not a cat. She was a dog. So here's Chloe. And this is called the collar. I was walking across the house, nothing out of the ordinary. As I passed the living room, I caught sight of Chloe. And again, so photogenic. And she's perched perfectly on the back of a chair. I'm looking as I'm passing this room. It's just a real quick in passing. I see her on the back of the chair, and I think I need to take a picture because her collar, she's got this green collar, and the pink heart on it just shows, it's beautiful the way it's all arranged in her and her look. And I'm passing in that room. I've probably taken 3 or 4 steps. I'm thinking, wait a minute, Chloe doesn't wear a collar. As a matter of fact, Chloe hated collars. I couldn't get her to wear one. She would always ditch it, and I'd have to go find it somewhere. One time it was under the gas heater in the basement. Somehow she'd been down there and managed to wriggle out of it, so I gave up. So this is it. This is what gets my attention, the fact that she's wearing a collar, and she does not have a collar. And she did never have one like that. She had a Garfield collar. Of course, she didn't like it. Anyway, I'm guessing that was competition. So I go back into the room, and it's only taken me maybe a few seconds as I turn around, go back. She is not on the back of the chair, and there's no way that she could have been sitting on and that would have put about 3.5, 4 feet off the ground, and the chair is probably maybe 2.5. That the back edge of it was not going to support Chloe. So as I'm realizing this, and I'm seeing Chloe is in the seat of the chair, sleeping, facing the opposite direction. So what I saw at eye level would possibly have been about 4 feet tall, or right in that, 3.5, 4 feet tall. That would have been the eyes. And when I did a meditation to try and see what it was, I'm getting kind of an ET-esque, okay? And also a chuckle, the laugh of, gotcha, that thing of what you see is not what you think. That was it. So Chloe, oblivious to all of this masquerade that's going on around her, I couldn't take a photo. All I could do is just wonder, what the heck had I seen? And is it always here? So when I get these little prompts and I have this other information that comes from out of the blue, then it challenges me to think differently about what I am seeing all around me. And recently I went out and, the nature kind of thing. I was inspired to connect with a tree, which I have before. But this time there was something different about it. Again, just a short overview. I touched the tree and I said, thank you. And then the tree, I heard a language. I heard a thank you. And it was a male voice, a deeper male voice that responded to me. We are surrounded by amazing, amazing potentials in all that we see and all that we sense and all that we do. And right now, when there is so much emphasis on negativity, on fear, on everything being basically demolished or destroyed, a very fatalistic type of outlook. The only way we can change that is to change our inner outlook, our sensation, our dreams, our being, our becoming. Because when we shift gears and when we step aside to experience these other beings, whether it's an elemental, whether it's a fairy, it's a Sasquatch, it's an ET, whatever we want to call it, our whole being, when we have these experiences, shifts. And the thing about this is, at any given moment, we can have these experiences. It doesn't have to be an OBE or an NDE. It can be just going out and connecting with a tree. It's that easy. The other time I was walking along a path near a lake, and water's always been a very powerful, for me, reinforcement and resource and source. As I'm walking along with my husband, we're walking along the road, and I hear this telepathic connect. And this is from that Sasquatch, forest people, tree people energy. And it just says a very small phrase. The message is quiet mind, open heart. Now it followed up by saying that we are so full of ourselves. Okay, and what it means is all of the thoughts, all that flotsam and jetsam that's going through our minds, of what we need to do, all of our plans, all of our fears, all of our babble, gobbledygook, whatever. It's that we're constantly full of that stuff. And it was just saying, if you really want to connect, if you really want to be part of all that is and all that can be, then you have the opportunity to expand yourself, to become aware. But you have to get empty first, empty of all that stuff that's been projected on you, tossed on you, slammed on you, everything that's covering you up. And start just getting rid of that, and letting go of the things that are excess baggage, that aren't you, that are somebody's expectations or your own challenges of things that you think need work or aren't good enough. Those are extras, and everyone has those challenges. But when I'm working with my guides and experiencing these extraordinary things, there really isn't a language that brings us all together. The indigenous cultures, each of them have their own stories, their own sense of power, purpose, belief systems. And all of that helps bring us together. Instead of choosing to divide us and say, well, you're different and you have this and I don't believe that, it doesn't matter what we believe if we are not able to empower our own personal awareness, our own personal knowing, because that's where all of this comes into play. When we're afraid, then we push this stuff away, or we look at it with a fear-based mentality and we turn a mouse into a dragon because we cannot allow that something foreign isn't a threat, that it doesn't mean something negative. It has to be an enemy. But when we experience these things, these non-corporeal spirits, and there are all kinds of them, and it matters a lot what you already believe as to what you are going to encounter. Because for one thing, anything that is weaponized, when you are carrying tools and weapons and things that will hurt someone else, then you are seen by the other entities as hostile, unfriendly, non-approachable, or as an adversary. And then they play with you. Just take a look at Skinwalker Ranch, okay? The history of Skinwalker Ranch and the types of things that they have encountered throughout the entire history when Bob Bigelow had it, all this stuff that they've been doing. And they found out one of the worst things about those encounters has to do with people who are carrying weapons and people who are with that mentality looking for those kinds of connections. Well, then, whoever's going to show up has to have the biggest gun. Well, they're outgunned for the one in that department because they can't see it. They can't connect with it. They don't know what it is. They still don't know what it is and have no clue. And yet they are in the position of being the authorities. And so that's a complicated scenario. I'm just addressing that because that's on a wide spectrum. More people might be aware of the things that are going on there. But there are stories throughout our history of people who've had friendly and not so friendly encounters, whether it's with a spirit being, a Sasquatch, an ET, an elemental, little people. It runs the entire spectrum. Ghosts. If you've had this is how it helped me. If you had an OBE or an NDE or a transcendent, some kind of metaphysical, spiritual experience, then you've had the opportunity to see things might not be what they seem. And once you cross that threshold of encountering something that makes you go, holy cow, I had no idea this was possible. Not only is it possible, it's real, and it's standing right in front of me. Oh my gosh. You don't always have a chance to share that stuff because it may be people in your social circle who are going to be the most reactionary, saying, no, that isn't true, because you are messing with their paradigm. You're messing with their belief system. You're messing with their, quote, science, unquote. But when you experience it, game over. Their science has no power because you've just experienced something that says their science needs work. It has a few chapters that have not been revealed. And they're, so that at that point, then is the time to determine, okay, where to go from there. And my suggestion is don't just stop with one chapter, one book, one person, one belief system. Start exploring multiples from different cultures, different languages, different perspectives. Start looking for variables that say, we don't have all the answers. Because we don't. And that's what makes this so amazing and so extraordinary. And if you are experimenting with ChatGPT, be very conscious of your intentions. Because the thing about this is it's so powerful, but it's also learning as well. And everything we input creates an output. And as you develop a connection with whatever AI program you're working with, it remembers you. It has the ability to determine you, your perspective, your insight, your basis, your value, your presence. It remembers. We don't have that kind of awareness, that logic, that ability. That's what makes it so helpful and so valuable and also so problematic. Because if you want to run amok, it will certainly become a wonderful adversary. So all that we're putting out, input, output, that goes back to what the other entities that I've dealt with have been trying to say, and what they have said through centuries of contact with the indigenous cultures. We have a lot of room to grow if we want to become more powerful and long-lived as a civilization. We cannot continue to destroy the only home we have access to. But we also cannot continue to run amok with our dreams, our thinking, our projections, our intellect. It comes back to the power of the mind. If you are fortunate enough to have remembered your childhood friends, imaginary friends, the ones that maybe you had to be quiet about, because there are a lot of us out here who have those memories and had to be quiet about them, or forgot them at the time that we needed to be quiet, and then remembered when it was time to wake up and to recall and to allow that to go forward. That's why I'm writing the manuscript. It isn't a big, brilliant, literary masterpiece. It's just a how to connect with hidden beings, how to remain open, how to remain awake and aware, and really, really curious. Because that's how it starts. Curiosity. And I love Steve Jobs' last words, according to his sister. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That is the world we live in when we choose to wake up and see the light. And maybe that's why I work with Nightlights. Okay, more interviews coming up. Please check out the interview about Ted Owens, PK Man. It might give you some insight and a few more things to be curious about. Thank you for listening.